Okay, so welcome back, guys. It's just we're doing another update on everything that's been done with this. I did end up getting the Bag Riders just basic switch kit that came in on Monday, like I thought it was going to. I've already installed for the compressor, the air tank, completed all the wiring and everything else. I know I should have probably done more of a video process just to kind of show how it was all done. But with the directions that Bag Rider gives you, it's actually super simple. And their kit's actually really nice to put together as well. But I just got just a single compressor. And then, yeah, just gives you the whole rundown. It's super, super simple. As you can see, we do have the air tank, compressors installed now as well. All the wiring is ran through the car, as well as the air lines. Those are now all plumbed to where the center console would sit in the W108. Ran all the lines up to the front of the car to the battery. If you ever do any of this stuff, especially if you're running a larger gauge wire, always have the master fuse as close to the battery as possible. You don't want that wire that goes the entire length of the car to the trunk. You don't want that fuse as far away as possible, because if something happens, you want it to blow sooner than later, obviously. Because if you got something going on the floor and then it ends up getting hot enough that it causes a burn in the floor before it's able to pop the fuse, then you have big issues. So right now, it's super simple if you guys understand how to do basic wiring with relays and everything else. The only thing that I didn't put it on switch power, because these cars, especially being a diesel, they do need quite a bit of battery power to kick this thing over, especially if it's cold outside. So I end up putting the compressor on a switch and then hid the switch underneath the dash. That way I can get the car started, let it warm up, allow it to have full battery power before I hit the switch to fill the tank to be able to use the airbags. For other things, I started making a central controls panel, as you can see here. So that's all it comes with the kit. It's just really simple, up and down gauges. You got, switches. You got all your air lines coming in. Also comes with 2 pressure gauges so you can monitor, which is really nice. So that's about the only thing that I got to do now. Is I already have all this mapped out on what I want to end up doing. I just got to drill the 2 holes to be able to install the gauges, and then put that back in the car in between the seats where it sits, and then reconnect all the air lines and everything else, and see if this thing's gonna go up and down like it's supposed to. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get going. Gonna make sure I got all the measurements right for the gauges, and then drill a pilot hole, and then use a carbide hole saw to get through this stainless. And then I'll install the gauges, and then when it comes down to it, I'll wire the lights in, but I mean, it's not needed right now, obviously. And then once all this is sorted out, then I'll be able to clean up the trunk, be able to install the fuses and the relay so that they're solidly fixed. And then the next idea is to have a friend of mine who's a woodworker come in, and we're gonna do a false floor in the trunk and possibly stain the plywood. Or we're trying to find like a nice flooring that's going to match the wooden interior in the car for color wise. But yeah, let's get to making sure this thing drills straight so I don't mess up this panel. It's scrap metal that I end up having laying around. I'd much rather recycle than buy new stuff, and I mean, stainless doesn't look too bad. But yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so the carbide hole saw worked beautifully. Got right through that stainless steel, no problem. We now have the gauges installed with the switches. Nice and level, center. And yeah, let's go ahead and put it in the car and see if we can't get this thing to do what it's supposed to do. The fittings and airline and everything for the gauges comes with the Bag Riders kit. My front airbag lines right now are here. Once I figure out how everything goes back together properly, I'm going to end up hiding it underneath the dash. And then the car is going to end up getting carpet as well. Underneath here, the center tray, you have your air feed in, and then the two airlines going to the back airbags as well. A good way to be able to hook this up so that you can raise the front at a reasonable speed as well as the rear. You're going to want to run to the supply lines here. You're going to want to run the two separate lines from the air tank. You can run one line. I just wanted to be able to have a faster system when it comes down to it. But you want to end up running these two. So this will be on one line that comes from the tank as well as one of the rear switches. So you're not sharing the same airline. Because if you want to end up raising the front at the same rate like you normally would, you want to have as much air supply as possible to be able to do it at the same time. If you have it on the same circuit, it would work still, it would just be really slow. So you can see all my inlets and outlets here. So I will try and set this phone up so you guys can see what I'm doing underneath, and then we'll go ahead and turn on the compressor. You see, I just hid the compressor switch underneath the dash here, so nobody really knows to hit it to turn on the compressor. So it's kind of more of a security feature too, because if this thing's down on the ground and nobody can figure out how to air it up, it's not going anywhere. It's a couple inches, like not even a couple inches, maybe a half an inch from hitting the floorboards on the concrete. So let's go ahead and put this in. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and hit the switch. I've had the battery charger on this for a while. I mean, the car hasn't really moved in the last few weeks, ever since I took the suspension apart, of course. So I did end up getting a separate gauge because unfortunately you don't have anything to tell you how much pressure is in the tank. I was back and forth on whether or not I'm going to end up running running an air line from the tank, so I can end up putting a gauge somewhere up front so I can monitor to make sure how much air is in the air tank itself. But for now, it's attached. I'll show you guys that as this thing airs up, and we'll test this out as soon as we got it ready to go. So go ahead and hit switch. And you can hear the compressor kick on now. So let's go take a look at that. It's a lot quieter when the trunk's closed, of course. I did end up getting isolators for the compressor so it would stop the vibration and it won't go through the car and cause a lot of issues noise-wise. You can get that on their website as well. It's just part of the drop-down menus when you go down. You can get check valves, just like air traps and stuff like that too, or water traps, so you can keep moisture out of your system. But I mean, if you end up going to filling this thing and going out for the day, you should always drain the tanks anyways. It's just more safety orientated than anything. There's no reason to leave the tanks full, and then this way at least you make sure every time you start it your whole system's working. You're not just gonna randomly get going and then notice once you drop or something like that your tank doesn't have any air in it and your compressor's not working. So it's kind of like a pre-checklist for when you go for a cruise. So we'll go ahead and let that fill up and we'll go test the switches. Okay, so we have everything plumbed back up again. The way that I end up wanting to run this is I wanted to have the red dial as the right side, so R&R. Same with the back bag. I want to make sure that the red dial is the right side as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll hit this and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So it should be left front, which it is. And this should be right front, which it is. It's left rear and right rear. And you can hear the compressor kicked on, so I went under the 120 threshold. So there it's sitting at 80. So after you get to this point, you just want to kind of let it sit for a bit. If you got soapy water, go around, check all your connections, make sure that nothing's leaking. But go ahead and see what this thing ends up doing for the next few minutes. Obviously it won't feel like a few minutes to you guys, but I'll let it sit for about an hour and then double check it just to make sure that we're still sitting around the 80 PSI mark. So it's been about an hour, came back in the check. You can see the car's still up. We'll go ahead and check the gauges, make sure that those are still good. Which, by the looks of it, they are. Still sitting around that 80 PSI mark. So I'll go ahead and get this on a stand and just going to show you guys now about how this is supposed to be working properly. Well, there you have it. That's about all I got for today. But if you guys are liking what you're liking, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun jazz, you know, the usual horse shit that everybody says. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Can't wait to be able to start driving it. It's getting pretty close to the car season here. I mean, we're going through our 5th or 6th winter, so we'll see what happens in the next month for us. But until next time, guys.